crassjokes.com presents the best short blonde jokes. Why does a blonde only change her baby's diapers every month? Because it says on the box good for up to 20 pounds. Why did the blonde chick do the Spanish guy? Because her teacher told her to do an essay. How do you erase a blonde's memory? Blow in her ear. Why is it good to have a blonde passenger? You can park in the handicap zone. Did you hear about the new blonde paint? It's not real bright, but it's cheap, and spreads easy. Why did the blonde stop using the pill? Because it kept falling out. How do you get a blonde to fall out of a tree? Wave. What are the worst 6 years in a blonde's life? 3rd grade. Why do blondes have square boobs? Because they forgot to take the tissues out of the box. A blonde and a brunette are falling down a cliff. Who lands first? The brunette. The blonde had to ask for directions. Why do blondes always smile during lightning storms? They think their picture is being taken. What do a Boeing 747 and a blonde have in common? Both contain a cockpit. How do you drown a blonde? Put a scratch and sniff sticker at the bottom of a pool. How did the blonde die drinking milk? The cow fell on top of her. What did they name the offspring of a blonde and a Puerto Rican? Retardo. What do you call a blonde grabbing at air? Collecting her thoughts. What's worse than a brunette trying to build a house underwater? A blonde trying to burn it down. Why did the blonde go to church? Because they heard there was a naked man hanging around. What does a blonde think when she eats a pickle? Poor toad. What do you call a blonde with a brain? A golden retriever. How do a blonde's brain cells die? They die alone. What did the blonde's left leg say to her right leg? Between the two of us, we can make a lot of money. How many blondes does it take to play tag? 1. What's black, and blue, and lies in a ditch? A brunette, who has told too many blonde jokes. What does a blonde wear around her ankles to keep her warm? Her panties. What do you do when a blonde throws a pin at you? Run like hell, she's got a hand grenade in her mouth. How many blondes does it take to screw in a light bulb? 2, 1 to hold the light bulb and 1 to spin the ladder around. How does a blonde turn on the light after sex? She opens the car door. What do you call 3 blondes in the bottom of the pool? Air bubbles. How does a blonde part their hair? By doing the splits. What's the difference between a blonde and a Mercedes? You don't lend the Merc out to your friend. What do you call a blonde skeleton in the closet? Last year's hide-and-seek champion. What does a blonde put behind her ears to make herself more attractive? Her ankles. So there's a smart blonde, the tooth fairy, and Santa Claus surrounding a dollar bill. Who picks it up? Nobody. None of them exist. What do you call a blonde with 2 brain cells? Pregnant. What do you call 20 blondes in a freezer? Frosted Flakes. What do you call a blonde with half a brain? Gifted. 2. How does a blonde try to kill a bird? Drop it off of the top of a cliff. How do you tell if a blonde was in the fridge? Red rings on the cucumbers. How did the blonde die during the baseball game? She drowned during the wave. What do you call a brunette between 2 blondes? A translator. What do you call 50 blondes standing side by side? A wind tunnel. How do you know when a blonde is on her period? Her tampon's behind her ear and she can't find her pencil. What does Star Trek's Dr. Bones McCoy say before he performs brain surgery on a blonde? Space, the final frontier. There are 17 blondes standing outside a disco, but why couldn't they get in? The sign said must be 18 to enter. What do you do if a blonde throws a grenade at you? Pull the pin and throw it back. What do you call a blonde skeleton in a closet? The hide-and-seek world champion of 1973. How do you make a blonde's eyes twinkle? Shine a flashlight in her ear. What do you call 10 blondes standing in a circle? A dope ring. Why did the blonde like the car with the adjustable steering wheel? More headroom. What do smart blondes and UFOs have in common? You always hear about them but never see them. Why did the deaf blonde sit on a newspaper? So she could lip read. Do you know why the blonde got fired from the M&M factory? For throwing out the W's. Why do blondes have bruised belly buttons? Because they have blonde boyfriends. Why don't blondes call 911 in an emergency? She can't find the number 11 on the telephone buttons. What does a blonde say when you ask her if her blinker is on? It's on. It's off. It's on. It's off. It's on. It's off. What's a blonde's favorite nursery rhyme? Hump-dump. How do you drown a blonde? Put a mirror at the bottom of the pool. Why do blondes wash their hair in the sink? Because that's where you're supposed to wash vegetables. Why was the blonde upset when she got her driver's license? Because she got an F in sex. How do you keep a blonde in suspense? We'll tell you the answer tomorrow. What does a screen door and a blonde have in common? The more you bang it, the looser it gets. Why did the blonde stare at the can of frozen orange juice? Because it said concentrate. Why does it take longer to build a blonde snowman than a regular one? You have to hollow out the head. How do you get a blonde pregnant? Come in her shoes and let the flies do the rest. Hear about the blonde who got an AM radio? Took her a month to figure out she could play it at night. How did the blonde die in a helicopter crash? She got cold and turned the fan off. Why is a blonde like a doorknob? Because everyone gets a turn. What happened to the blonde ice hockey team? They drowned during spring training. What did the blonde say when she saw the sign in front of the YMCA? Look! They spelled mazes wrong. What's the difference between a blonde and a bowling ball? You can only fit 3 fingers in a bowling ball. How does a blonde like her eggs in the morning? Fertilized. How do you make a blonde laugh on Saturday? Tell her a joke on Tuesday. What happens when a blonde gets Alzheimer's disease? Her IQ goes up. What do you call a dumb blonde behind a steering wheel? An airbag. How do you get a blonde to dye her hair? Tell her that brunettes are stupid too. Why did the blonde tiptoe past the medicine cabinet? She didn't want to wake the sleeping pills. Why did the blonde climb the glass wall? To see what was on the other side. What do you call a blonde who has just dyed her hair brown? Artificial intelligence. Why don't blondes use vibrators? A. They chip their teeth. Why don't blondes use vibrators? A. They chip their teeth. How did the blonde burn her nose? Bobbing for fries. What's the diff between a blonde and a computer? You only have to punch information into a computer once. What does a postcard from a blonde's vacation say? Having a fantastic time. Where am I? What's the difference between a blonde and the Atlantic coast? There's fewer crabs in the Atlantic. Why are blondes immune to mad cow disease? It only affects the brain. What's the difference between a blonde and a Mercedes? You don't lend the Merc out to your friend. What do a bowling ball and a blonde have in common? Sooner or later they'll both end up in the gutter. How did the blonde break her leg raking leaves? She fell out of the tree. What did the blonde do when she missed the 66 bus? She took the 33 bus twice. What's the difference between a blonde and the Titanic? They know how many men went down on the Titanic. How would a blonde interpret 6.9? A 69 interrupted by a period. How do you confuse a blonde? Put her in a circular room and tell her to sit in the corner. What do a blonde and a turtle have in common when they're laying on their backs? They're both screwed. How many blondes does it take to play tag? 1. Why did the blonde stick her head out of a moving car's window? To get a refill. Why did the blonde keep a coat hanger in her back seat? In case she locks the keys in her car. Why did the blonde drive into the ditch? To turn the blinker off. What is the blonde's favorite potato chip? Frito-Lay, Frito-Lay. Why is a blonde like railroad tracks? Because she's been laid all over the country. What is the difference between a blonde and a refrigerator? A refrigerator doesn't fart when you pull your meat out of it. How does a blonde lose 5 pounds? She takes off her makeup. Where do blondes go to meet their relatives? The vegetable garden. Why do men like blonde jokes? Because they can understand them. What's the difference between a blonde and a solar-powered calculator? The blonde works in the dark. What does a blonde owl say? What? Why is a blonde like an old washing machine? They both drip when they're fucked. Why is the blonde's brain the size of a pea in the morning? It swells at night. What stops then goes then stops then goes? A blonde at a blinking red light. Why did the blonde buy a brown cow? To get chocolate milk. Why did the blonde secretary cut off her finger? She wanted to write shorthand. How can you tell when a blonde sends you a fax? It has a stamp on it. What does a blonde say after multiple orgasms? So, are all you guys on the same team, or what? What does a blonde say when she gives birth? Gee, are you sure it's mine? What do you call an eternity? 4 blondes in 4 cars at a 4-way stop. Why do blondes have TGIF written on their shoes? Toes go in first. What did the blonde say when she opened a box of Cheerios? Oh, look, Daddy, donut seeds. How can you tell if a blonde's been using your computer? There is whiteout all over the monitor. Why shouldn't blondes have coffee breaks? It takes too long to retrain them. What does a blonde do if she is not in bed by 10? She picks up her purse and goes home. Why did the blonde keep ice cubes in the freezer? So she could keep the refrigerator cold. What do you call 2 nuns and a blonde? 2 tight ends and a wide receiver. What does the Bermuda Triangle and blondes have in common? They've both swallowed a lot of semen. Why don't blondes talk when having sex? Their mommies told them never to speak to strangers. What does a blonde do if she is not in bed by 10? She picks up her purse and goes home. Thanks for watching. For more blonde jokes, please check out crassjokes.com.